Canelo Alvarez has given us enough major moments, from his conflicts with GGG to his learning the ropes versus Floyd Mayweather Jr.
Away his energy and every
Thus, stay tuned, because now we're going to take a look at 5 of Alvarez's battles that stunned the whole world. Shane Mosley. At some time, you're going to want to have a well-known name on your CV. And although Shane Mosley had long since passed his championship days at 135, 147, and 154 pounds by the time May 2012 rolled around, he still carried a large amount of cash in the boxing world as a result of his 2 victories over Oscar De La Hoya and his bouts that went the distance with both Mayweather and Pacquiao. On the undercard of Mayweather's fight against Miguel Cotto for his own 154-pound belt, it made sense for Alvarez to square off against him for defense number 4 of the championship he had won against Hatton barely 14 months earlier. Mosley, who was then 40 years old, was more aggressive than he had been in his most recent bouts. Nonetheless, this was not enough to counter his opponent's youth and strength, and Alvarez won 11 of the 12 rounds on 2 scorecards and 10 on a third. Also, Mosley spoke about the opponent after the game, saying that his defense was really good and he was really fast. I see great potential in him. Amir Khan. When we talk about highlights, this one was very high on the list as well. 1 year, 1 weight class, and almost 1,500 miles to the west later, Alvarez found himself in defense number 1 of the WBC middleweight championship he had earned from Miguel Cotto in the battle that immediately followed his fight with James Kirkland. His opponent was Amir Khan, a previous 140-pound claimant who moved up to the welterweight division to take on an opponent against whom he owned modest advantages in height, 5'8.5" to 5'8", and reach 71 inches to 70.5 inches, but yielding a large deficit in power. The fleet-footed Brit made effective use of his tools through the first 5 rounds and had a 1-point lead on 1 scorecard. However, this advantage was nullified in the 6th round when Khan was knocked out with an overhand right that followed a feinted jab and landed on Khan's chin. Khan was declared unconscious immediately after the blow, and the referee, Kenny Bayless, chose not to count the knockouts and instead stepped aside while medical staff entered the ring. Khan said, "Unfortunately, I was getting into the ring with a big guy, and I did not make it all the way to the end." Sergey Kovalev. In the spring of 2019, only 6 months after defending his freshly earned collection of middleweight titles against Daniel Jacobs, Alvarez was 15 pounds heavier in pursuit of the WBO light heavyweight crown carried by division mainstay Sergey Kovalev. In the preceding 6 years, the big Russian had competed in 16 championship bouts in the division, winning 13 of them and finishing 10 of those victories by knockout. However, because of the fact that all 3 of those championship fight defeats had occurred in his most recent 7 bouts, including 2 by knockout, he became a far more tempting target for Alvarez to go after. The larger guy came into the fight at the MGM Grand Garden Arena as the fighter, fighting behind a jab and focused on defense in order to elude Alvarez's blows. The challenger, meanwhile, was trying to wear out his opponent by focusing on strong, decisive head punches while also landing a protracted onslaught on the challenger's torso. As a result of the contradictory fighting styles, the scorecards were very close into the last 2 rounds, with Kovalev behind by 2 points in the eyes of 2 of the judges, and even in the eyes of the 3rd. However, Alvarez once again made it an academic issue. At 2 minutes 15 seconds of the 11th round, a left hook that landed on Kovalev's head and staggered him along the ropes left him exposed for a right that connected flat on his chin and sent him sprawling to the canvas. And there was no need for a count since he was knocked out. It was delayed a little bit, but overall, it was successful, Alvarez added. Miguel Cotto. And with that, we're going to go back inside the time machine once again. In reality, we need to go all the way back to November 2015, when Alvarez was just getting started on the weight class ladder. It had been 6 months since his highlight reel knockout of Kirkland, and he was entering previously uncharted territory to face veteran Cotto. Cotto was himself a 4-division champion, and he was defending his middleweight belt for the 2nd time after upsetting Sergio Martinez 17 months earlier. Since suffering back-to-back defeats to Mayweather and Trout in 2012, the resurrected Kingpin has won 3 straight bouts by knockout since then, and he was 10 years older and shorter in height than Alvarez. Cotto, who had been trained for the fight by Freddie Roach, sought to outbox Alvarez by employing movement and hand speed. However, Alvarez was once again more economical and landed more blows than Cotto did. He was successful in landing the more powerful punches as well. And the damage produced by those strikes was a contributing factor in the unanimous decision that was reached in the fight, in which he lost only 6 of the possible 36 rounds across all 3 scorecards. Alvarez is quoted as having commented, "I will always respect him, and he's a great champion, but now it's my time to shine." Gennady Golovkin. A person has to triumph over obstacles in order to achieve stardom. And more than any other battle on his way to becoming the pound-for-pound champion, this was the contest in which Alvarez acquired the upper hand. Alvarez returned to the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas almost a year to the day after fighting middleweight boogeyman Gennady Golovkin to a split decision draw. Alvarez modified his strategy to become more aggressive, and he landed sharper and more effective punches on his route to a majority decision win. 2 of the 3 judges scored the fight in favor of Alvarez, with scores of 115 to 113, while the 3rd judge scored it a draw with a score of 114 to 114. The variety and speed advantage of Alvarez kept Golovkin off balance, and his bodywork was successful in halting the flow of his opponent's attack. It was the first defeat of Golovkin's career, which consisted of 40 bouts, and it brought an end to a span in which he had held 1 or more championship belts in the 160-pound weight class over 20 matches and 8 years. Alvarez stated, "I showed my victory with facts, and he was right." What makes Canelo Alvarez such a good fighter? Canelo Alvarez's dedication to boxing is his most notable quality as a professional. The boxing superstar, who is now 33 years old and was already a multimillionaire before he turned 25, has reached the highest levels that the sport of boxing has to offer. Alvarez still gets to bask in the glory of his efforts, as shown by the fact that he lives in opulent residences and drives expensive automobiles. On the other hand, this does not imply that the great boxer has allowed his fame and money to distract him from his devotion to his trade. Despite his tremendous and unprecedented success, Canelo Alvarez continues to devote his life to boxing, and that is because he was born into a poor family and had a modest education. But that is not always the case. Once they reach the zenith of their career, many boxers lose their hard work ethic and their determination to continue improving. Such tales are abundant in the sport of boxing. Adrian Broner was at one time at the pinnacle of his career. He was often regarded as the heir apparent to Floyd Mayweather. However, in contrast to Mayweather, Broner did not follow the same rigorous diet or work ethic as his hero. Another example is Roberto Duran, who is widely considered to be a legend of the sport and is often recognized as the sport's finest lightweight fighter of all time. Despite all of his ability and brilliance, Duran had a tendency to become bloated in between bouts, and this was a problem for him. Here's yet another illustration. The most shocking loss in the history of boxing, and maybe even all of sports, occurred when Mike Tyson was defeated by James "Buster" Douglas, a boxer with a less than outstanding record. Tyson was previously considered the most feared fighter on the globe, but the training camp that Tyson attended was notorious for its excessive drinking and lack of focus. Marvin Hagler, a renowned middleweight boxer and legend, reportedly quipped, "It's tough to get out of bed and do road work at 5 a.m. when you're sleeping in silk pajamas." However, Canelo Alvarez may travel the world in the most luxurious private aircraft and drive the most costly automobiles, but you can be sure that he spends the majority of his time in the gym. And it is very unlikely that his lack of commitment to the sport of boxing will be the reason he suffers another defeat inside the ring, if and when that day ever arrives. Please let us know in the comment section below if you agree with the majority of the boxing community's assessment that Canelo Alvarez is indeed one of the finest fighters of this generation. And you can also tell us why you have this opinion. And that wraps things up. We appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Please hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you in the next one.